Okay, colleagues, I think we can start now. We have a very interesting agenda today, so let's get to it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for those who are, it's late in the afternoon. My name is Agnes Nyaga. I work with the evaluation function at UN Human Rights, and I will be your moderator today and also your timekeeper for the different sessions. On behalf of the UNEG Young and Emerging Evaluators Working Group, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the launch of the UNEG mapping report on the Young and Emerging Evaluators. The Young and Emerging Evaluators Working Group is an intergenerational working group. It was established in 2023 with the aim to empower young professional evaluators and amplify their voice and participation in evaluation processes across the UN and beyond. We have had various co-chairs of this working group, including UNFPA, UNESCO, OIOS, and UN Human Rights, and currently it is co-convened by UNFPA, UNESCO, and UN Human Rights. UNEG recognizes the importance of youth inclusivity. And because of this, we launched the mapping process to be able to really do an exercise to see how young and emerging evaluators are represented across the UNEG agencies and how they are engaged within these agencies. And today's launch is an opportunity for us to reflect on the findings of this report, to be able to share lessons and collectively strategize different approaches on how we can meaningfully engage young people in evaluations, especially at a time like this where the UN is being called to do more with less. We are joined by different colleagues across the UNEG, and this includes young evaluators, senior evaluators. We have the heads of different evaluation functions and offices. We have other colleagues interested in evaluations, and we welcome you all today. And we look forward to having this conversation and intergenerational dialogue with you. At this point, I will invite Anna Erica, who is a young and emerging evaluator and the chair of the Eval Youth, to share some opening remarks with you. Over to you, Anna Erica.
Thank you very much, Agnes. And really, it's quite a pleasure to be able to join you all for the launch of this UNEG mapping report on YEEs. And, just being able to see all of the UNEG members, the M&E personnel within UN agencies, and my Eval Youth colleagues, people that I've worked with within advocating for YEEs in evaluation, really, and seeing everyone here in this room really just speaks volume about like our creative commitment on engaging youth for the future of evaluation. Evaluate really from the very beginning that it's been established has really all about one thing, and that's championing for youth and the capabilities of young and emerging evaluators and engaging them in evaluation processes. We at Evaluate, we really believe that for evaluation to be robust, innovative, inclusive, gender responsive, that represents human rights, it's really requires that young people are engaged and nurtured and empowered in this space in evaluation. And to a certain degree, I think everyone would agree that engaging young people in evaluation is honestly just, it's not just about continuity for the field, it's not just sustainability or the future. It's really about like what we can actually do on the now, on how how we can infuse fresh perspectives, digital fluency, innate understanding of the evolving global landscape within evaluation. And honestly, like I've seen the working group, the UNEG working group, being established when I was first engaging with Eval Youth. And I'm really glad that the Eval Youth's mission really resonated with UNEG, leading them to do this mapping exercise, to understand precisely how YEEs are engaged in various UN member agencies and identifying what worked, and what didn't, and what are the persistent barriers that exists. And to be able to witness the culmination and materialization of these efforts through this report is really a very heartwarming experience. So another just for everyone's information, and I think just for if you haven't really known, this year actually marks the 10-year anniversary of Evaluate. So for 10 years, we have been advocating for YEEs and evaluation. And we are really at this very critical juncture where we're already trying to reflect on the past decade, how this advocacy have progressed within the field. And it's also a critical point where there is this recognition on how we need to rework and step up our strategies even further. So this mapping document really came at a very, very important time, and it provides really a good starting point on how we can collectively move forward and build on the foundation that was laid over the past decade. So I'm gonna do my I'm not gonna spoil the content of the report because that's someone else's presentation. But I think one of the biggest things that I've seen with this report is how it is very balanced, but also creates this very clear and compelling picture, of providing, on one hand, promising practices that has emerged and commendable efforts by several UN agencies. And I really believe this should be celebrated and replicated throughout others, even beyond the UN system. But it also bravely brings to light persistent challenges and barriers, that many young evaluators face within the UN. And I that's something I really appreciate. And what I want to specifically highlight for everyone is that these two modalities aren't just simple findings, but really a clear call for action for all of us. And if you're gonna remember anything about my speech, it's just to inform you guys that from my perspective as a YEE who has a direct stake in this, this is not just a report. If you choose it to be, it's a foundational document or blueprint for tangible action. And I'm excited on the positive fruits that will undoubtedly bear fruit from this report. And now that we have this space, we have this document, there is this platform, I think I can say with confidence, not just on personal level, but also as chair of Eval Youth and as a representative of YEEs within the evaluation community, that we fully commit on and giving all of our efforts to further advance what could be created from this document. And to me, this event, therefore, is just not just an unveiling of a document. It can be a catalyst for change. It can be a moment for collective reflection, sharing lessons learned, and forging concrete and actionable strategies to foster truly meaningful engagement for YEEs, ensuring their voices are not just heard but be central to shaping the future of evaluation within the UN system. So my sincerest hope today that it would mark the beginning of a really robust and collaborative partnership that drives impactful progress for YEEs across the globe. And so I invite everyone, especially to my colleagues at Eval Youth, to embrace this opportunity to spark innovative ideas and commit to tangible step forwards. Whether you are a member of Eval Youth, MNE personnel, or a member of the UNEG YEE working group, or whichever gaps you fall in between, I hope we could work together to ensure that young and emerging evaluators are not just participants, but true partners and leaders in shaping more impactful and equitable future for evaluation. And with that, with just much enthusiasm, I look forward to the rest of today's program. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ana Erika, for that very inspiring and grounded reflections. At this point, I'll invite another YEE, Roxana, who is an assistant evaluation officer at UNITAR, to take us through a short interactive poll so that we can hear from you, our participants. Over to you, Roxana.
Thank you so much, Agnes. And yeah, because we wanted to set today's most of a dialogue and a dialogue setting and conversation. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to hear from you. And we invite you to complete this quick interactive poll. So you can access through the link that I just posted in the chat. And you can also find the code right in the top of the screen, but I can also type it here, or you can access as well through the QR code. And here we were curious to know, and it's not an easy question to start with, but we are just asking that if UNEG agencies or your agency could make one systemic change to support young and emerging evaluators, what should it be? So we invite you to reflect upon it and to share your thoughts. We have some responses coming in already.
Roxana, will we be seeing the responses right now, or you want to share after?
Yes, so we will be sharing the responses.
Okay.
Let me just to share. Oops. So we can see here some responses and what could be the specific things that could be changed. So more of them are related to capacity building, but we have also different other responses that relate more to other more structural or organizational factors, such as advocacy and leadership, better coordination, also commitment and adequately resourced, that this is something that also have commitments, how investment, adequate resourced, and improve access for junior emerging evaluators, mentorship and opportunities, and having the space to talk and lead as well. So having spaces such as one that we have today to have young and emerging evaluators taking this different space, and this include inclusion in a strategy and also recruitment opportunities. So provide more opportunities overall related to resources, fellowship, and recruitment. So we have just some responses saying hiring more young and emerging evaluators, so related to having more recruitment and opportunities for the young and emerging evaluator professionals.
Thank you very much, Roxana. Thank you, colleagues, for participating in that Mentimeter, and thank you for your input. At this point, we will now move to the core of today's launch. I want to invite two of our YEEs, Dr. Antonina, our consultant who led the mapping process, and type A, one of our working group co-chairs, and an evaluation specialist at UNESCO to present the high-level evaluation findings.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Let's look at our presentation. It is a great pleasure to see all of you. And I've seen from lists that many of you actually participated as in focus group discussion or as interviewees. So I'm really happy to see you today. Maybe directly to the next slide. Okay. So let's look on methodology. I hope you had the chance to look through the report. So kind of a look through very more deeply and to look on all findings. But today we will try to give you some kind of very high level findings and to look on very high levels of methodology to explain what we've done. Yes. Okay. Next slide, please. Good. Yes, findings of facts. No. On methodology. Let's. Okay. What we've done actually, we looked through 62 evaluation UN agencies who are members of UNEG. It's members or observers. And the main a bigger chunk of work on it was done through document review, because it was really important to us to understand if young and emerging evaluators are already in documents, in evaluation reports, in manuals. So we looked through 603 documents and conducted a survey with respondents from 23 countries, conducted 52 key informant interviews, and also 4 focus group discussions with YEEs. In key informant interviews, we had both senior evaluators, directors. Also, we had YEEs from different agencies. And overall, we tried to cover as many agencies as we could, and also as many countries and backgrounds as we could. So it basically were also internal YEEs who currently are working in UN agency, one of UN agencies, but also it was also external YEEs who working as a consultants or previously worked as a consultants with UN agencies. Next slide. And we looked on 6 main dimensions of YE engagement: leadership and accountability for EE engagement, practice of engaging EEs in evaluation processes, advocacy and capacity development support for YEs, communication and knowledge management to enhance EE engagement, human resources, financial resources for YE engagement. Yes. Next slide. Taipei.
Yes, thank you, Antonina. Now that Antonina's taken you through the methodology that was applied for this mapping exercise, we want to go over some of the key findings that came out. First, we noted that there was somewhat of a gap between what was being presented as a priority, that youth was highlighted as a priority in most UN agencies, and this aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, the Sustainable Development Agenda, but also the more recently adopted Pact for the Future that always puts youth as a priority. But then when you're looking at the evaluation policies within each agency, that isn't always consistently reflected. It's interesting to note also that within the individual UN agencies, when interviewing young and emerging evaluators in these agencies, they often believe that their own agency is more open to youth than other agencies. So that was an interesting finding as well. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there's a gap in aligning the overarching strategy on youth for a given agency, UN agency, and the evaluation office's policy and how they interact specifically with youth. So there's a gap that needs to be filled to make sure that youth voices are also reflected in evaluation processes and that they participate in the design and the implementation of the evaluation frameworks that we implement as UN agencies. The mapping noted that this is in part hindered by organizational and financial constraints. From the financial perspective, one of the main challenges is that youth isn't budgeted for in most annual budgets, and so there are limited resources that can be used to hire young and emerging evaluators or to engage them in the evaluation processes. This often comes as an afterthought and is not where the limited resources are invested as a priority. Next slide, please. The mapping found that young and emerging evaluators typically represent roughly 20% of evaluation employees in the UNEG agencies. Next slide, please. This is a relatively small number, given the many advantages that were highlighted in having youth also be actively involved in evaluation practice. On the screen, you can see a few examples of the keywords that pop up when you mention what are the advantages. So oftentimes it was highlighted that young and emerging evaluators bring in creative ideas, innovative ideas. They're very open and bring fresh perspectives. They're very passionate and engaged, and they're open and keen to grow. So all those sets of values and perspectives really bring another perspective to the evaluation that can help bring in another perspective, see things in another light, and really help in building and strengthening that evaluation. Next slide, please. Yet, we still see that there are a number of barriers for YEEs to be fully engaged in evaluation processes in the UN. First and foremost, there are high entry requirements to access different posts within the UN, whether these are fixed-term posts or other types of contracts. There's often a lot of competition, meaning that even for junior positions, whenever those are open, oftentimes you will see much more experienced evaluators still apply for those junior posts, making it even more difficult for young and emerging evaluators to access those opportunities. Once you manage to get hired or engaged in the process, there are still some challenges also at times. So some young evaluators noted that there was underutilization of their skills. What do we mean by that? In some instances, it was found that being labeled as young or junior could result in those evaluators being sidelined from certain processes, or with the view that they don't have enough experience to be involved in decision-making processes, and that perhaps we need to wait a little bit further to give them those opportunities and for them to grow further. So sometimes that label of young or junior could be a challenge in accessing growth opportunities internally and showcasing their skill sets. And lastly, I know most of you are aware of this, but this is a major problem also in terms of access, that oftentimes a lot of internships are unpaid. There are a few consultancies that exist or some programs like the JPOs, but these also are quite difficult to access in certain instances and can make it difficult for young evaluators to enter into the UN evaluation space. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm. So one more interesting finding was about WOPES as a missed opportunity, that many agencies have some working on the ground with organizations who support actually enhancing youth evaluation capacities. But at the same time, many agencies, they do not work with WOPES. And these connections can be enhanced. And this is kind of missing opportunities actually for UN to work more closely with voluntary organization for professional evaluation and to bring more young and emerging evaluators in UN agencies. Next slide. A paradox of entry-level opportunities, Taipei already mentioned a little bit, but what was one of the findings that positions for young entry-level employees in UN are very limited. And sometimes it is filled by more experienced evaluators. So although it is written some kind of minimum level of experience, and it is the idea of this position is to bring more YEEs, more experienced colleagues applied for that positions and received it, and it becoming not like as entry-level position, but rather as opportunity for also like for other colleagues to join the UN. Next slide. But also, what was like one of findings which like highlighted very positive role of champions for YEEs, and mainly like proactive managers and mentors. What was interesting is that even in agencies where like opportunities are very limited, and like there is like no good engagement of YEEs in different decision-making processes, in evaluations. But if there would be like proactive manager who would like to mentor YEs in those particular offices, YEs are involved well in the process of evaluation. So it is really encouraging to each of us, each of like evaluation managers, each of evaluators inside of UN and in outside of UN to work more hardly, let's say, to mentor YEs and to bring them onto the table, to give them opportunity to grow and to engage in them in the decision-making processes. Next slide. And actually, we received a lot of different opinions from YEs. And a lot of young and emerging evaluators during this exercise said that like mentors are a key for supporting them during their journey. So here is like a quote of from interviews and also focus group discussions, but there were like many others. And also you can share some of your thoughts in chat. Maybe we also can share like a little bit like of your experience as YE or mentoring YE. Thank you. Taipei. Next slide.
Thank you. And so to finish off the presentation, we want to conclude with some of the suggested actions that are highlighted in the mapping. So first, we'd like to consolidate all of the capacity building materials that exist so that they're easily accessible in a one-stop shop somewhere on the UNEG webpage to facilitate the use of these materials and the further engagement of young and emerging evaluators. We also want to develop opportunities for youth. So by creating a structured mentorship program, creating a roster as well, where we could easily identify young evaluation consultants or youth that would be keen in participating in evaluation reference groups or youth advisory groups, for example. Next slide, please. We'd also like to encourage UNEG as a whole to engage more with youth by making sure that youth perspective is included in the UNEG peer review process, also ensuring that youth is reflected in the UNEG evaluation norms and standards to align with all of these other UN frameworks that I mentioned at the beginning. Encourage UN agencies to also assess their performance against the standards on youth and evaluation. So Antonina outlined the 6 different standards at the beginning of the presentation. It's important that different UNEG evaluation offices regularly monitor how they fare against these standards to make sure that there are efforts being deployed to better engage with youth. And then we also want to promote cross-organizational learning opportunities and specialist training for youth again. Next slide, please. And lastly, we'd like to encourage leadership of the different UN evaluation offices to include youth more regularly in the evaluation policy and the revised strategies. So to keep that in mind whenever they're revising these key documents. And to also, to the extent possible, include a dedicated budget for youth. It's very difficult oftentimes to make these changes once the budgets are adopted, but if we can anticipate and really try to put aside some resources for youth engagement, that can really help in making sure that becomes a reality. And finally, this is a call to all YEEs that are connected here and elsewhere to also join our working group if you want to participate in some of these activities and join us in advocating further for youth involvement in evaluation practices within the UN. And with that, that's an overview of the main findings of the mapping. And I will pass over to my colleague Faith, who will be moderating the panel discussion for the next couple of minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Taipei, for this wonderful presentation and very comprehensive highlight of the findings of the mapping report. Hello, everyone. My name is Nsansha Faith Chilupula. I am also a co-convener of the UNEG Working Group on YEEs, and I work for UNFPA as an evaluation analyst. So in the interest of time, we're moving on to the panel discussion. We'll be building on the findings that have been highlighted in the report. And I think if someone can also just share the link to the report in the chat in case someone who wants to access it real quick, they can just have a view of it. But as the panel discussion is going on, but we'll jump straight into it with a few introductions very briefly of the different panelists. I'll go by alphabetical order, and I'll ask each of the panelists to quickly introduce themselves before we get into the conversation. So by alphabetical order, I'll start with Asela. Asela, if you can just unmute and introduce yourself.
Sorry, you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Asela Kalugampitie. I work for the UNFPA Independent Evaluation Office as National Evaluation Capacity Development Specialist, and very happy to be part of this panel. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Asela. I'll then go to Basha.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barsha Pradhan, and I work at the UNICEF Evaluation Office as the evaluation specialist. Nice to see you all here.
Thank you, Basha. I'll then move on to Claudia.
Hello. So very nice to see you. I'm Claudia Ibargüen. I am head of evaluation at UNESCO and also vice chair of the UN Evaluation Group.
Okay. Thank you, Claudia. And if you would be interested to know, Claudia is also our mentor, the mentor of the UNEG Working Group on Young and Emerging Evaluators. And thank you for joining us, Claudia. Then I'll go on to Domina.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. I'm Domina Chamatkar from Sri Lanka, working as the M&E specialist at FAO country office.
Thank you, Domina. Then I'll go to Erica.
Hi everyone. My name is Erica Mattellone. I'm a senior evaluation specialist and team leader for institutional effectiveness at UNICEF Evaluation Office. Delighted to be here with you all.
Thank you, Erica. Then Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Kodondan. I'm an evaluation specialist at UNFPA. I'm happy to be here and look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And last but not the least, I'll go to Sabas. I don't think I see.
Thank you, Faith. Sabas Monroy, Evaluation Program Management Officer at UN Human Rights. I'm very happy to be here, also joined by my colleague Silta Georgiadis, who oversees the evaluation function in the office. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sabas. So to kickstart the conversation, we saw that from the report itself, one of the dimensions of the report is around leadership. And would like to know a bit more on what leadership looks like in terms of the young and emerging evaluator and how UNEG agencies can create more spaces for YEEs to engage in evaluation practice or evaluation processes. So this question goes to Basha. If Basha, you could help us know a little bit more on how YEEs, what leadership means to young and emerging evaluators and how UNEG can create these spaces.
Thank you for the question, Faith. As it was mentioned during the presentation by Antonia, in the mapping exercise, it has indicated that meaningful leadership is very essential to bring YEEs to decision-making process. It could probably be taken in different ways by different people as to what meaningful leadership would be. But for me, it is mainly and mostly about creating spaces It's about allowing opportunities for others to grow and also to lead. And if it is for young and emerging evaluators, I believe that is what YEEs need to have the space and the opportunity where they can speak up and their perspectives are not just left out in open, their perspectives are heard and included in decision making. So beyond just the space and the opportunity, I think they also need the space where they can lead an evaluation by themselves as YEEs. So on the other hand, it is also equally important for them to be empowered to contribute. And from my experience, I've seen that YEEs can contribute the most when their efforts are recognized, when they have clear guidances, and when they can build their capacities with relevant skills. So when it comes to UN agencies and the UN evaluation group, I would again emphasize what was found in the mapping exercise, what the report says about meaningful leadership. As we all work towards the Sustainable Development Goal 2030, it is quite evident that the SDG places a huge emphasis on inclusive and participatory approaches. Similarly, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the CRC Article 12, also requires that young people and children's views should be heard and considered. So this means that as meaningful leadership, we need to ensure that young people's perspectives inform the decision making. How do we do that? I think there are many ways, and some of which are, as we mentioned, we should involve young people throughout the evaluation process, right from the conceptualization and until the dissemination of the evaluation findings. One of the ways that we have done that is through forming youth advisory groups with young people of specific age range. And then involving them would be for us to at least ensure that their inputs inform the decision making. We also need to ensure that the languages that we use is not too technical and not full of jargons or acronyms. It's quite youth friendly. And then again, allowing them the opportunities to build their capacities through training, but also mentoring, peer learning, youth-friendly skill building sessions. And again, as also pointed to by the report, hire young people in agencies internally or as part of external evaluation teams. If not, we can also establish positions where young people without any experience can also apply and gain that experience for them to be senior evaluators at a later stage of time. I also saw an action on creating rosters for external YEs where they can be hired for specific tasks. So overall, these are just some examples of what can be done by UN agencies. Overall, like meaningful leadership need to recognize young people not only as participants in development efforts, but as critical evaluators who help shape policies and programs for a better future.
Thank
Now
you
back to
very
you,
much.
Faith.
Thank you so much, Basha, for that very insightful response. And I think one of the key elements of engaging YEEs through evaluation processes is the aspect of mentorship. And I would like to hear from Claudia some of the models or initiatives that you have seen from your organization that would or that you would propose that would effectively support YEE growth through mentorship as well as professional development. Over to you, Claudia.
Thank you, Faith, and very nice to see all of you. It's incredible to see that 90 people are connected. It really shows its testament to the interest of this in so many UN agencies and UN functions. So, as I said, my name is Claudia. I head the evaluation office at UNESCO. We're a medium-sized team. What was interesting now when we're talking about mentoring, which I think is super important, is that, I mean, anybody who's not in the beginning of their career, but like me, more towards the end of my career, is that everybody who's in my position will be able to say someone or a person or persons that were key in really getting them into evaluation to begin with, because we've all said that it's very rare for someone to say, oh, yes, I knew from the beginning that I was going to be an evaluator since I was 16 years old. And no, you sometimes kind of fall into this. And thankfully, I fell into it because of people that were very important in my career, that gave me skills, that provided me tips, etc. And I have them in my mind. What I thought was interesting is that the report does say that there's a lack of kind of structured mentorship programs, and I would say that that's the case in UNESCO too. It's not structured or formalized in any way. However, I do think we have two very interesting models or experiences that I wanted to share with you today. The first one is what this kind of, and this came from the UNEG working group, which was to team up with UN volunteers to try to get young evaluators to actually be in very key positions, which is for us UN regional evaluation associates, right? So UNESCO had not had, and at the decentralized level, evaluators at the regional offices. And it was a huge gap. And it was something that we recognized. It was one of the reasons why our decentralized evaluations had, a lot of challenges of quality, etc. So we teamed up with UN volunteers together with UN evaluation group to get 5 regional evaluation associates who are now in 5 regional UNESCO regional offices. And I have to say that they're doing extremely well. And where the mentoring comes in here is that my kind of say the senior team here at headquarters, we teamed one-on-one. So there's one from my team who's a senior who's teamed up with one of the UN regional, and they follow them much more closely. They have meetings every week, even though we have full-on team meetings every 2 weeks. But there's kind of this very close relationship between the senior person here in the office, in headquarters, and the person who's in the field. And I think that all of them have been helped a lot by this relationship of also understanding how UNESCO works, but also telling them, about UNEG or about other opportunities that are out there. So that's that first model that I would really recommend, the UN volunteers. And I think, it's something that's been doing, Faith will be able to talk more about it, but other agencies have also taken advantage of this model. And the second one is that in all of our evaluations, there is kind of a senior team leader. And then we always have a junior person who is teamed up. It's kind of this one senior, one youth. And what is interesting is that, for example, Taipei, who's here and you all know, she started as a mentee, let's say, in that kind of arrangement in which she was someone who was carrying out evaluations together with someone who was more senior. And now she has become a mentor. So now she is doing the same thing for younger members of the office. And it really is a matter of learning by doing. And we have some very talented young evaluation consultants who work in each of these projects, evaluation projects, hand in hand with the senior. Taipei is not the only case. There's another person in the office who started 10 years ago as a mentee and is now a mentor. And I have to say that it's worked really well in the sense that they are there from the beginning to the end of the evaluation project. They bring in, their ideas, their freshness, and now very much after a couple of years, also their evaluation knowledge. And it's incredible to see them. And I've been sitting in meetings of initial findings of an evaluation with ADGs. These are, at the highest level after the Director General. They're the directors of the different sectors in UNESCO, and seeing these young evaluators explaining to them the findings of the evaluation and really having that opportunity to really be at a high level, explaining evaluation, explaining the findings, explaining the recommendations. It's amazing. And I think that kind of opportunity, I would have loved to have that opportunity many decades ago. But I think you really grow because it's not only learning about evaluation, but also standing your ground on findings and recommendations with people who are obviously quite a number of levels above you in the hierarchical structure of our organizations. So I just want to leave it there. I know we only have 5 minutes, but I really wanted to kind of highlight these two models that I think are working very well. We have an office that has a good combination of more senior evaluators with young evaluators, and we all have team meetings together. When I ask what, in team meetings, what are your thoughts, they also, their hand goes up. There is no really hierarchy, and they've learned how to really speak up. And again, I've seen that when they speak up in front of an ADG, and it's fantastic to see. So I'll leave it there, and of course, any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Claudia. And as you may all know, one of the suggested actions that was presented is promoting cross-organizational learning. And I think it would be useful to share this type of lessons and models that Claudia has mentioned with other agencies. And I'm sure they would be able to, tap into it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we can link you to Claudia for more information on the two models that she has mentioned. And call upon our next panelist, Dumina, to share with us from your experience some of the practical mechanisms that you have observed that have been used to strengthen the meaningful engagement of youth or young and emerging evaluators in shaping evaluation strategies and policies within the organization you work for. Over to you, Dumina.
Yeah, thank you, Faith. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. So the meaningful engagement and policy making and policy decision. So the first of all, I mean, I can refer to the report of Summit of the Future of the United Nations. It has mentioned strengthen meaningful youth in engagement policy and decision making at the national level and international level. So what is in the context of evaluation? What can we highlight as the meaningful engagement of youth? So we can highlight as the moving from evaluations done on youth to done with or done by youth. So in this regard, I have some a few tangible mechanisms and actions implemented and launched by different UNEG, United Nations member agencies. As I mentioned, the international level and national level, I'll go ahead with the international level first that I have engaged and I have seen and engaged. The first one I can highlight is this United Nations Young and Emerging Evaluators Working Group. This is one of the major examples from a collaboration between different different UNEG entities for policy making and decision making level. I mean, to support YEEs. And UNEG evaluation. I mean, Y group has their capacity building program and UNV program. I will come to the UNV program later. So this is one of the major example how different agencies are collaborated for strategic and policy making decision level. And when it comes to my organization, FAO, one thing I can highlight is a young professionals program mechanism that FAO use. So young professional program, usually it opens for young to hire young professional officers who are below 32 years old, and there's a separate from OED or the evaluation office FAO. There's a young professional officer evaluation, and this is especially for small island. There's a small island developing countries, these developing countries, and landlocked developing countries. And after 2 years of as a professional officer, they direct goes to P1 level, professional 1 level, where they can engage with high level decision making, and then they are like routinized during those 2 years, and then directly they go to the P1 level where they can the youth can engage with high level decision making, policy making level decision making, and I have seen, even in the report of the launch today, it has mentioned 50% of the HQ headquarters staff of FAO is YEs. making, it's one of the, proving the fact. And again, another one example I can highlight is Youth Advisory Group for Global Evaluation of Gender Policy of UNICEF. So UNICEF has, proposed a panel, 12 young people to co-create evaluation design. These youth advisors provided unique insights, helped sense check whether the evaluation questions are resonated with youth, and even collate dissemination of findings to their network. So one thing other UN agencies also can do is have YEEs in their reference group members for evaluations, and strategy development committees and governance board that ensure that these strategies and policies are aligned with youth, that they have youth as a voice and engage with these policies. And again, when it goes to international level, the UNFPA has mandate make the it's mandatory to have a young YEE in their evaluation teams, not just from in the data collection or as the enumerator, just from the beginning. From the beginning of their evaluation process, from the designing phase to the dissemination phase. So it has, empower them to have more engage with the policy making decisions, and then high level decision making and engage with. And then one thing I should mention, even in Sri Lanka, I have, though it is there, I have seen sometimes, even the evaluation managers or evaluators ask, is there anyone who's engaged, who are, competent enough to be a member of this evaluation or evaluation group, evaluation team. So there's, though, it is there, there's a capacity issue with there that I have experienced. And again, international level and also local, national level, I have seen the United Nations Volunteers Program. I have mentioned it in previous only. So say there's a separate category for 18 to 19 years age group, and many high level evaluation professional opportunities in different UN agencies, and also many opportunities from United Nations volunteers for experience as well as for beginners. I have seen UNESCO has published like few months back, there's a opportunity likewise in UNE. And again, indirect Eval for Action campaign led by Evaluate, UNFPA and GPF, Global Parliament Forum for Evaluation. There are youth, so youth play young professionals, they play a huge role in decision making in these campaigns, and then they have scrutinize or make these campaigns, make the decisions taken by them better. And there are many youngsters who entered evaluation field with this the influence of these kind of campaigns. And I want to highlight key things from national level also in Sri Lanka. I have seen FAO, myself, and WFP and UNOPS, all of three of these agencies. The evaluation specialists are young and emerging evaluators, and they are working with hand in hand with other government counterparts, organizations in decision-making process, even in the government level. So one of the example is most recent example is for FAO and WFA. Many people, myself and WFA, many person, we are directly involved with developing suitable food security monitoring index for Sri Lanka, with the which is implemented by Presidential Secretary. So we are directly involved with them and discussing with them on this kind of one of the example from United Nations that we have. And also
sorry, Domina, we'll have to cut you short on this one because of time. Yeah, sorry, but thank you very much for the insightful response you've provided. And I'll then move on to our next panelist, who will help us find out how YEEs, young and emerging evaluators, can be engaged more in decision making. From the report, we've seen that most of the young and emerging evaluators who were interviewed reported that they were excluded from decision making and their contributions were not recognized in the reports. So how can UNEG agencies enhance the engagement of YEEs in decision making as well as their recognition. And this question goes to Sabas, who is representing OHCHR. And Sabas, you have 5 minutes so that we can catch up with our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. I want to share that at UN Human Rights, we recognize that empowering youth requires building a culture where their voices are heard and truly valued. Their growth is supported, and their contributions influence decision-making processes. I think that for UNEG agencies to meaningful acknowledge and include YEEs in evaluation processes, we need to go beyond our efforts and really commit to creating a youth-inclusive evaluation culture. What do we mean by creating a culture? That means creating structured, intentional spaces for young and emerging evaluators so they can participate through all the stages of the evaluation processes: design, data collection, analysis, reporting, dissemination. Not only seeking for the contribution, but clearly also recognizing them in evaluation reports as evaluation managers, as evaluation reference group members, etc. Every evaluation report, every product should have their names there. Importantly, I think it's key to include their perspective in decision-making, listening to them. In the case of human rights, we are taking some deliberate steps in this direction. We are a small evaluation function, but we're still taking some steps, small but determined steps, trying to grow into a culture that prioritizes mentorship, as has been mentioned by other colleagues, knowledge creation, capacity building, sharing access to opportunities for this next generation of evaluation professionals. We have a framework for that. That means our evaluation policy applies this intersectional lens, aligned with the commitment to leaving no one behind, which includes youth as a key stakeholder, not only as young evaluators, but also a key stakeholder in every intervention in this office. We incorporate young and emerging evaluators into our teams. We have now even a YEE consultancy pool roster, so they are meaningfully engaged in the whole process from start to finish. URAS also prioritized in other frameworks at the institutional level, or Office Management Plan, the High Commissioner Path for Solutions, the Declaration on Future Generations. The Human Rights 75 Youth Declaration also highlights the importance of having youth influencing outcomes to gather all this diversity which young people could bring to these decisions. As we implement the Pact for the Future, I think we should look at meaningful youth inclusion also as a tool for strategic foresight in evaluations. Youth contributions don't just add value, but they can transform our work in an innovative, future-centered, and impactful manner. I think this is very important. Just to close, we have shared a little bit of this on this journey in a blog with Eval for Action. We will be happy to circulate it as well. And just to reiterate, meaningful youth inclusion and acknowledgement requires a structural change and strong leadership commitment and a mindset shift. So youth is involved in these different steps in the evaluation process since the beginning through decision-making, use, and dissemination of evaluations. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sabas. And I think you remember from the presentation where Antonina, I think, was the one talking about VOPEs. And there we see that VOPEs are a missed opportunity in this whole process of engaging youth in evaluation within UNEG itself. And I heard from what you said, Sabas, on the intentionality of engaging, and one of the streams could also be VOPEs. So would like to ask Acela, if you could tell us how we can leverage the engagement of VOPEs to then now meaningfully engage young and emerging evaluators or youth in evaluation within the UN system or amongst UNEG agencies. Over to you, Acela.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you everyone else, for the inputs already shared, great inputs. First of all, I want to congratulate UNEG YE Group for this launching this report planned by YEs and also implemented by YEs and now launched by YEs. Great achievement. Now, going back to WOPES matter, there are 167 WOPEs according to IOC, International Organization for Cooperation in Evaluation, the mother organization for evaluation associations, or WOPEs. So I think Antonina mentioned that it's a missed opportunity for UNEG not to have this kind of partnership with WOPEs, but I would say that it's a missed opportunity for WOPEs as well, because having 167 WOPEs and only 62 UN evaluation officers, why not a great partnership to promote evaluation and young professionals. Now, when it comes to WOPEs, naturally, WOPEs are the custodians for professionalization of evaluation. This is how I would place them. What does it mean to promote evaluation profession, develop skills, knowledge of evaluators, give opportunities for getting experience, things like that. On the other hand, UNEG has developed and published ethics and standards for evaluation, quality measures for evaluation, as well as quality checklists for evaluation reports, competencies for monitoring and evaluation professionals working for UN agencies. These are the gaps in the evaluation profession, actually. So WOPES can definitely get the benefit of all these already developed systems, materials, standards, ethics by UN agencies, UNEG as well. So I see that this is very important marriage between UNEG as well as WOPES. We all know that evaluation is not a recognized profession. So professional evaluators need set of competencies, skills, and this needs to be improved through professionalization. So that's why UNEG agencies as well as WOPES should work together on this. Now, when it comes to young professionals, UNFPA as a policy mostly country program evaluations. When there's an evaluation team, at least one member should be young evaluator, young and emerging evaluator. But what is the challenge when country officers are trying to find a young evaluator? Why always there's a challenge to find a young evaluator? So this is where WOPES can also come in, because if there are no young evaluators, because there is a big demand from youth as well, there should be more opportunities, and there is an opportunity. But at the same time, when there is the opportunity, it's difficult for country officers to find young evaluators. So WOPES needs to also work with UN agencies, country officers, how to connect young evaluators for country evaluations or other program evaluations. I think that is one area that WOPES and UN agencies can work together. Now, UNFPA Independent Evaluation Office closely work with regional evaluation associations, promote young evaluators, young and emerging evaluators, participation in regional conferences, capacity building of young and emerging evaluators. We also have developed, in collaboration with Eval Youth and regional youth chapters, training program on career development in monitoring and evaluation. And those training programs are also conducted in the context of regional evaluation conferences, giving opportunity for young evaluators. So that has been already done. At the same time, there is more space to work on that. I would say that country officers can definitely work together with national WOPES. But at the same time, I must mention that WOPES have their own challenges. That may be the reason, because WOPES are not that active because of the voluntary nature of WOPES. That may be the reason for this, partnership level at the moment, but it can be improved by also supporting WOPES. And WOPES can be the conduit between other stakeholders, including UN agencies, and also support the mentoring program. Mentoring was mentioned in many times in this panel. And also work with UN agencies and other stakeholders to offer joint training programs, M&E courses, things like that. Most importantly, WOPES can ensure participation of underrepresented youth in evaluation. I think WOPES has very good opportunity for that. So with that, let me finish here, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asela. And whilst UNFPA has the floor, I'll ask my colleague, Karen. You mentioned a lot, Asela, about WOPES being a good link for mentorship, even for young and emerging evaluators. But this can only be done if the leadership and the strategies done by the leadership accommodate such initiatives of engaging WOPES, as well as the intentionality of engaging young and emerging evaluators themselves. So we want to find out from Karen some of the practical steps your agency, I'm also from UNFPA, but right now I'm from the YEE working group. So what are some of the practical steps that your agency has put in place to make sure that youth are integrated in the evaluation policies and strategies?
Great, thanks so much, Faith. First, I just want to also congratulate the working group on the launch of this report. I think it's a real milestone, and bravo to all of you. Also, just thank you for inviting UNFPA to be a part of this important discussion. So as for the question, it's not an easy one, but I'll do my best to share some, I guess, practical reflections from UNFPA experience that I think resonates with a lot of what was shared today by the other presenters. So in our office, we've approached youth engagement at, I want to say different, but they're complementary levels. At this more strategic level, where we've set, the vision and the commitment, at an operational level where we built kind of systems to support it, and then at a more practical level where we changed, I think, the way that we think about and work to share space and power with young people. So let me just start at this more strategic level. We've made sure that youth engagement is not something that we just talk about, but it's really written in our core guidance documents. So our evaluation policy, our evaluation strategy, they both explicitly prioritize building the capacities of young people and making sure that they have meaningful roles in evaluation. And this is really just about setting the vision from the top. It sends this message that youth engagement is not this add-on or checkbox, but really central to our work. And this is a really important step. And I think something that the mapping report itself identified as a gap across UNEG agencies. Of course, commitment alone isn't enough. And at UNFPA, we've really built or made efforts to try to build kind of the systems and infrastructure to facilitate and sustain youth engagement. So through the Youth in Evaluation Initiative, which we've co-founded as part of the evaluation Eval for Action campaign. We've co-developed a Youth in Evaluation manifesto, as well as these, I'd say, more practical standards for youth engagement and evaluation. And this, again, just really sets a vision and a blueprint, really, for youth engagement. And this has been taken up by governments, UN agencies, youth organizations, to really guide a more inclusive practice. And these are standards that us at UNFPA really commit to in our office. And I encourage you all to check out these standards, as well as sign the Youth in Evaluation manifesto if you haven't done so already, and I can share those in the chat. Also at UNFPA, we've created additional kind of tools to support this work, including a guidance on engaging young people in evaluation, as well as this lessons learned paper, which we co-created with YEEs, that pulls together just kind of our experience and insights on what works and what doesn't work when it comes to making youth engagement meaningful. As Asela actually also mentioned, we've also supported peer mentoring, peer learning, and career development through just different partnerships with Eval Youth and GEI. And we also provide some financial support and leadership opportunities to young evaluators so they can participate in various platforms, including conferences and evaluation boot camps. So these are just kind of some of our efforts that collectively, I think, work to ensure that youth engagement is not just this one-off activity in our office, but is really well supported and integrated in kind of our evaluation ecosystem. The third piece is really just on this practical level, is what I mentioned before, is just changing how we think about and how we conduct evaluations so that young people are not just included, but really empowered. So creating real opportunities and what I've heard from other speakers, creating the space for young people to lead, to co-create and make decisions. So a good example of this is in our formative evaluation on UNEG support to adolescents and youth. And in this evaluation, we set up this youth steering committee, which is something we haven't done before. And it consisted of YEEs as well as individuals from youth-led organizations. And they really co-managed the evaluation with us in each stage of the evaluation process. And I think for us, this was a real exercise in power sharing and really stretching our own thinking and assumptions around evaluation practices and processes and how to make evaluation more inclusive and equitable and transformative even. So at UNEG, we've done this in one of our centralized evaluations, but we've also are really trying to make it a standard practice, as Isela mentioned, to include YEs as part of our core evaluation teams, not just in our centralized evaluations, but also in our decentralized ones as well. And this is again not just as token roles, but really roles where evaluators are actively contributing to the evaluation as team members and where possible leading parts of the process. And again, this just requires internal shifts in thinking, rethinking roles and timelines, and how we think about structures to support YEs to succeed. But all this to say, while we made much progress, we're still learning. We're still expanding our imagination and efforts to improving, the quality of engaging our YEs. And one key part of that journey, I think, is just establishing kind of these feedback loops with young evaluators that we work with. And I think it's really their insights that have helped us reflect internally and continually improve. But in the interest of time, I'll stop here. But I hope these reflections have been helpful, and I look forward to the questions and discussion. Over.
Thank you so much, Karen. And indeed, your reflections are very useful. If you could maybe perhaps also share some of the resources in the chat, like the lessons learned paper and the other resources you spoke about, so that people can also access them. Last but not the least, I'm passing the mic to Erica from UNICEF. We just also want to find out, in the same light and the similar inquiry that we had, the one we asked Karen, we would also like to find out from you, Erica, what some of the practical steps that your organization or your agency, UNICEF, has taken to ensure that youth engagement is in evaluation policies and strategies. And if you could share with us some resources in the chat if they are available. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Faith. And good morning again, everyone. It's really fantastic to see so many people connected on this very, very important topic. Someone said before that at this point in time, we need to do more with less. I will argue we need to do better with less. And as part of doing better, we need to make sure that we meaningfully engage young people in everything we do at the UN, not just evaluation, but, programming, monitoring, having, full engagement of young people in our work to make the world a better place for this generation and for future generations. So with that in mind, what are the practical steps here at UNICEF to meaningfully engage young people in our evaluation strategies? So first of all, we have worked very closely with our programming and monitoring colleagues in the past, and we have produced a very reachful guidance note on adolescent participation in monitoring and evaluation. And this is a very concrete, practical tool for practitioners on how to engage meaningfully young people, ensuring ethical safeguards and promoting their participation across the programming, monitoring, and evaluation cycle. Second, I will say, especially here in the UNICEF Evaluation Office, we have tried to meaningfully incorporate adolescent and youth participation in key global evaluations. So for instance, as part of our evaluations, we run participatory workshops with young people when we do data collection in the field. We conduct in a safe manner interviews with young people, but we have also recently created youth advisory groups, for example, for our evaluation of the gender policy last year, and also for our evaluation of the UNICEF strategic plan. The strategic plan is basically our main development framework, and we have, through these youth advisory groups, tried to bring in the voices of young people in the evaluation process, but we have also created space for them to get to know better the work of the UN and UNICEF, and also explore opportunities for their career growth and personal development in the course of the process. Then I will say we have also in UNICEF piloted youth-led evaluations. For example, when I was an evaluation specialist some time back in Cambodia, I led the first youth-led evaluation, training young people on what is evaluation and designing with them an evaluation they conducted and then presented findings and recommendations to UNICEF management. So, this is just a way for, meaningfully engaging young people, and we could do more of those, pilot youth-led evaluations so that we also bring young people in a leading position when it comes to carrying out evaluations. And then I think, Claudia said before, the importance of mentoring young people. At UNICEF, we are investing in that and also in creating internship opportunities for young people. So we have a number of partnerships with universities that have evaluation as part of, their curricula, so that we can then bring these interns on board and build on their skills, benefit also from them. And more recently, we have also created a fellowship program for young people to continue after the internship working with us in the evaluation office. So I think, having more of, also these opportunities, partnering with, universities across the globe that have programs on evaluation is also, a strategic way to creating linkages with universities and bringing young people into the evaluation space at the UN. Thank you.
Thank you so much for highlighting all those different ways and practical steps that UNICEF is taking to meaningfully engage youth and going further to also engage adolescents. I like that you mentioned the fact that both adolescents and youth are meaningfully engaged in evaluations. So, colleagues, I think this is where we'll end with our panel discussion. I'll pass on the floor back to Agnes, and I would like to invite you to also ask some questions in the chat if you have any. Also utilize the chat. I see there's an ongoing discussion there, and yeah, you can also check the chat. Yeah, thank you so much for engaging, and over to you, Agnes.
Thank you very much, Faith, and thank you very much to our panelists. This has been very insightful, and thank you for sharing your practical examples as well. As mentioned, please share any additional resources on the chat because we have colleagues looking at that as well. I don't know if Arushi is here. She was monitoring the chat, but so far we have a number of comments and maybe one concrete question. And I'm also looking at hands. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hands. We may only do this just for a few minutes and then we will close. We are committing to respond to your questions. If you do also post them on the chat, we can send you some written responses as well. So maybe one question that is on mentorship, and I don't know if Claudia would want to respond to this, or our working group, as we have also a work stream on that. Evaluators has been conducting mentoring program for years, and we consistently see high demand for mentees, over 300 applicants for our current ongoing program, but always struggle to recruit enough mentors, only 40 applicants. Our model relies on volunteerism, and naturally engaging mentors in this model is challenging. Does the UN have any models or examples for motivating mentor participation in this potential youth mentoring program? I don't know if Claudia or Taipei, you're able to share on your end how, I mean, Claudia had also shared the arrangement that you have in terms of the mentoring. I could speak on the work stream because we do have a work stream on mentorship as well as part of our plan for this year. So at the moment, we are looking to, as Taipei mentioned, to establish sort of like a program or a schedule for this mentorship. And in terms of the model, we are still discussing it based on the inputs that colleagues will share. But one of the questions that we've asked them as they share what they expect from this program is whether they would be willing to be a mentor. So perhaps as we pilot it, we would be happy to come back and share our experience based on that. So we are looking at those that would I mean, everybody also wants to be a mentee. At the same time, we also have the specific ones that want to provide the mentorship. So depending on what we see, we will structure the model to
maybe I can just come in.
I mean, yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have a response to that specific question. I mean, because they're asking much more on structured, formalized mentoring programs, which is not actually. I'm sure that they are in the UN, but I don't know about them. What has happened in our small office is that it has been much more organic. Of course, as a head of evaluation, something that I believe in and I pushed, but it's happened as work has happened. That is, as a more senior and a more junior are teamed together and they have to do work, the mentoring, I think, comes naturally. But I would say here to young people, to not be shy about asking and about, asking for tips, asking about career choices, asking about education opportunities. So here I'm talking outside of kind of these formalized structures. When you're teamed up with a more senior, don't be afraid, don't be shy to ask, how was your career? How did you get here? Where do you think I can find not expensive education opportunities? Whatever it is that you have questions about, take opportunity that you're going to be working for quite a stretch of time, of months, and turn it yourself, right, into a mentoring opportunity rather than waiting for more of these structural, which I think are good and are needed, these more formalized, but take opportunities in the unstructured mentoring moments too.
Thank you very much, Claudia. There's another question on UNEG that maybe you would be able to respond as a vice chair. UNEG has a training course on M&E, but not activated for everyone. When will that be acceptable? for everyone.
I'm trying to find it on the chat. I can't see it.
It's just yeah, it just came in right now.
So it's the last one?
Yeah, it's the last one.
Okay, sorry. Let me take a look at it. UNEG has a training course for M&E, but not activated for everyone. When it would be acceptable? It is. I mean, there is a course which is available to anyone who is a UNEG member. So it is activated. And it's UNITAR. I think there was someone here from UNITAR that helped in that. So I'm not sure why it hasn't worked for you. I've done part of it. I haven't done the whole thing. It's quite long, but all of the young evaluators from my office have done it. The regional evaluation associates did it, and it's a quite good and free source to use, and it is available without cost.
Thank you, Claudia. Okay, at this point, please, if you have additional questions, post them on the chat and we'll take note of it. I see we have about 2 minutes to the end. Perhaps you could request 5 more minutes from you to do the closing. Arushi, a minute to you.
Thank you. Sorry. And just because my question is more existential at this point, and it's really great to hear about like the mentorship opportunities, the capacity building, but just given like the gloom that the cost containment has brought down on the UN system, especially for non-donor funded, functions such as oversight functions like ours. I'm looking to any and all of the panelists, including Claudia as our mentor, what Erica was alluding to and what Sabas also said, for essentially like a reality check, where do the YEEs stand now with respect to recruitment? Will organizations who have YEE engagement policies still, stand by those commitments, and just overall, will there be any opportunities or spaces to leverage our sort of skill set? I know this is like a big question, but I just wanted to, put it out there. Thank you.
Again, I don't have an answer. I'll just come in really quickly. I don't have an answer. It's uncertainty for all of us at all levels. People much higher on the salary scale than me and below. It's uncertainty all around. Recruitments are being, if not completely frozen, stopped at certain places. And here I don't know fully, what in UN Women, which is, part of the Secretariat. But I think that the entry of young and emerging evaluators to at least to the UNEG world and to the UN world is there. I mean, this wasn't the case when I started in UNEG 10 years ago. Young voices were nowhere to be seen. So I think that there's no turning back on that. We don't know about, where the UN will be in 1 year. I mean, I really don't know. But I think we have to go step by step and day by day. And I really believe that your space of young and emerging evaluators is there now. It won't change, and you will have your space in UNEG, and all agencies are discussing this. I don't think any agency can just not face it. So I guess that's the optimistic side. The other side, I don't know.
Thank you very much,
And
Claudia.
if I can maybe add, I like just to say that, it's important that we turn a crisis into an opportunity. So even though, we're going through very challenging times, this is also an opportunity for us to rethink at, how well we're doing in terms of youth engagement, about having, a cadre of, young people into our evaluation offices, so that, we can also relook at how we work and make sure that we do better in terms of incorporating young people in the work we do, but also having a stronger representation of young professionals in our work. So definitely the conversation doesn't stop here, and personally I will continue advocating for having young people involved in everything we do here at UNICEF Evaluation Office.
Thank you, colleagues, and still monitoring the chat. But at this point, I'll hand over to Taipei, who will be doing the last part of this and the closing. Thank you very much. Taipei, over to you.
Thank you, Agnes, and thank you to you all for this very interesting conversation and the inputs from the different panelists. So we've discussed the mapping reports at length throughout the session, and that was one of our main initiatives as a working group last year. But I'd also like to seize this opportunity to highlight the UNEG UNV program that was referenced also, that was designed to really help evaluation offices within UNEG hire UNVs and really engage young evaluators in their evaluation practice. So this was launched early last year, and by December, we had hired 10 UNVs, so 10 young and emerging evaluators hired as UNVs to participate in the UN evaluation offices of 5 different UNEG agencies. They're based in 8 different countries. And I just wanted to seize this opportunity to show you a very quick video of one of them. His name is Osama Al-Kebsi from Yemen, and he is based in the regional office in Doha of UNESCO. So I will just share my screen very quickly. So you can see the video of him explaining his experience briefly. So this was just to give you
We didn't have audio if we were supposed to have some audio for this video. Can you try sharing your screen and maybe click on the share computer sound option next time?
Yes, I suppose what I'll do is I'll send you an email afterwards with the video so that you can watch them for the sake of time. There was a second video, but then I suppose there might be an issue with that. But just to close the session today, we will share these 2 videos that highlight the experience of young and emerging evaluators, and we will, as a working group, keep working on advocating for youth engagement, meaningful youth engagement in evaluation practices in the UN, and to find other means of really continuing to work more closely with youth and give space for youth voices in evaluation practice. So this will have several channels through the normative frameworks, trying to make sure that youth voices are reflected in the Executive Steering Committee of UNEG, in the UNEG peer review panels and processes, but also finding other means to enhance career development opportunities through the roster, the mentorship program that we've discussed at length. So with that, we will close today's sessions. Thank you very much again to all the panelists that participated today, to Antonina, who conducted this exercise on behalf of the working group, my fellow co-conveners, and of course, to all of you who took the time to participate in this launch and engage with us today. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you.